Magnetism by Guy de Maupassant. It was a men's dinner party, and they were sitting over their cigars and brandy and discussing magnetism, the NATO strikes and Charcot's experiment. Presently, the sceptical, easygoing men, who cared nothing for religion of any sort, began telling a story of strange occurrences, incredible things which, nevertheless, had really occurred. So they say, falling back into superstitious belief, clinging to the last remnants of the marvelous, becoming devout of these mysteries of magnetism, defending in the name of science. There was only one person who smiled, a vigorous young fellow, a great ladies' man, who was so incredulous that he would not even enter upon a discussion of such matters. He repeated with a sneer, "Humbug, humbug, humbug! We need not discuss Donado, who is merely a very smart juggler. As for M. Charcot, who is said to be a remarkable man of science, he produced on me the effect of those storytellers of the school of Edgar Poe, who end by going mad through constantly reflecting on curious cases of insanity. He has authenticated some case of unexplained and inexplicable nervous phenomena. He makes his way into that unknown region which men are exploring every day, and unable always to understand what he sees. He recalls, perhaps, the ecclesiastical's interpretation of these mysteries. I should like to hear what he says himself." The words of the unbeliever were listened to with a kind of piety, as if he had blasphemed in an assembly of monks. One of the gentlemen exclaimed, "And yet miracles were performed in olden times!" "I deny it," replied the other. "Why cannot they be performed now?" Then each mentioned some fact, some fantastic presentiment, some stain of soul communicating with each other across space, or some case of the secret influence of one being over another. They asserted and maintained that these things had actually occurred, while the sceptic angrily repeated, "Humbug, humbug, humbug!"
At last he rose, threw away his cigar, and with his hands in his pockets, said, "Well, I also have two stories to tell you, which I will afterwards explain. Here they are. In the little village of Itrid, the men, who are all seafaring folk, go every year to Newfoundland to fish for cod. One night the little son of one of these fishermen woke up with a start, crying out that his father was dead. The child was quieted, and again he woke up exclaiming that his father was drowned. A month later, the news came that his father had, in fact, been swept off the deck of his smack below the window. They remembered how his son had woke up and spoken of his father's death. Everyone said it was a miracle, and the affair caused a great sensation. The dates were compared, and it was found that the accident and the dream were almost coincident, whence they concluded that they had happened of the same night and the same hour. And there is my story of magnetism. The storyteller stopped suddenly. Thereupon one of those who had heard him, much affected by narrative, asked, "And can you explain this?" "Perfectly, monsieur. I have discovered the secret. The circumstance surprised me and even perplexed me very much. But you see, I do not believe on principle, just as others begin by believing. I begin by doubting, and when I cannot understand, I continue to deny that there can be any telepathic communication between souls. Certain my own intelligence will be able to explain it. Well, I kept on inquiring into the matter, and began of questioning all the waybits of advanced seamen. I was convinced that not a week passed without an affirmation, or one for their children dreaming and declaring when the mug up the father was drowned. The horrible and continual fear of this accident makes the ambulance talk about it. Now, if one sees frequency prediction coincides, be a very simple chance with the death of the person referred to. People at once declared it to be a miracle, for the suddenly lost sight of all the other predictions of mystery that have remained unfulfilled. I have myself known 50 cases where the person who made the prediction forgot all about it a week afterwards. But if the one happens to die, the regulation of the thing is immediately revived, and people are ready to believe in the intervention of God, according to some, and magnetism according to others. One of the smokers remarked, "What you say is right enough, but what about your second story?" "Oh, my second story is a very delicate matter to relate. It happened to myself, and so I don't place any great value on my own view of the matter. An interested party can never give an impartial opinion. However, here it is. Among my acquaintances was a young woman on a one I had never bestowed a talk, one I had never even looked at attentively, never taken notice of. I classed her among the women of no importance, though she was not bad looking. She appeared, in fact, to possess eyes, a nose, a mouth, some sort of hair, just a colored type of countenance. She was one of those beings who awaken only a chance, passing thought, but no special interest, no desire. Well, one night, as I was reading some letters by my fireside before going to bed, I was conscious in the midst of a train of sensuous visions to something pass through one's brain in moments of reverie, of a kind of slick influence passing over me, a little flutter of the heart, and immediately, without any cause, without an illogical connection of thought, and I say distinctly, as if were touching her, saw from head to foot, and discovered this young woman to whom I had never given more than 3 seconds to hold at a time. I suddenly discovered in her a number of qualities which I had never before observed. A sweet charm, a languorous fascination. She awakened in me that state of restless emotion that causes one to pursue a woman. But I did not think of her long. I went to bed and I was soon asleep, and I dreamed.
You have all had these strange dreams, which make you overcome the impossible, which open to you double-locked doors, unexpected joys, tightly folded arms. Which of us in this troubled existing, brightest slumber has not held, clasped, embraced with rapture, the woman who occupied his thoughts, and have you ever noticed what Superman delight this happy dream give us, into what mad intoxication they cast you, with what passionate spasms they shake you, and with what infinite, caressing, penetrating tenderness they fill your heart for her whom you hold clasped in your arms in that adorable illusion that is so like reality. All this I felt with unforgettable violence. This woman was mine, so much mine that the pleasant warmth of her skin remained in my fingers, the odor of her skin in my brain, the sound of her voice lingered in my ears, the touch of her clasp still clung to me, and the burning charm of her tenderness still gratified my sense long after the delight but disillusion of my awakening. And 3 times that night I had the same dream. When the day dawned, she haunted me, possessed me, filled my sense to such an extent that I was not 1 second without thinking of her. At last, not knowing what to do, I dressed myself and went to call on her. As I went upstairs to her apartment, I was so overcome by emotion that I trembled, and my heart beat rapidly. I entered the apartment. She rose the moment she heard my name mentioned, and suddenly our eyes met a peculiar fixed gaze. I sat down. I stammered out some commonplace, which she seemed not to hear. I didn't know what to say or do. Then, abruptly, clasping my arms round her, my dream was realized so suddenly that I began to doubt whether I was really awake. We were friends after this for 2 years. "What conclusion do you draw from it?" said a voice. The storyteller seemed to hesitate. "The conclusion I draw from it, well, my job. The conclusion is that it was just a coincidence, and then, who can tell? Perhaps it was some glance of her which I had not noticed and which came back that night to me through one of those mysterious and unconscious recollections that often bring before us things ignored by our own consciousness, unperceived by our minds. Call it whatever you like," said one of his table companions when the story was finished, "but if you don't believe in magnetism after that, my dear boy, you are an ungrateful fellow."